out on the main camera.
Hi everyone, welcome back. This is another special episode of Cinematography for Actors podcast. We are live from the top floor of the TCL Chinese Theatre in the VIP room. We're very lucky to be here for the 19th annual Oscar qualifying HollyShorts Film Festival. I'm here, I'm Haley, this is Indiana, my co-host, and we're seated here with Stevie Wain, who is the everything for the short film Day Jobs. Hi Stevie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. Give us, your logline is very fun. Will you please share it with everybody?
Sure. So the show's called Day Jobs. It's a half-hour TV pilot about an aspiring LA comedian who secretly falls in love with the mom that she babysits for. So it's kind of like a hot nightmare.
Yeah. I feel like that happens. You get when you're as a babysitter myself.
Honestly,
you get
it.
Very attached to the people whose children you care for.
Yeah.
And that seems like a very realistic problem from time to time.
The boundaries are blurry. You get very involved in the family, you sort of become part of it. So I think there's definitely like a weird intimacy that happens in that job.
So
for sure.
So Haley says you've done everything. Did you really do everything? Or what were the biggest roles?
It says writer, star, creator, co-director.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everything.
So how did this all come about?
Yeah. So, like the story or just me making stuff? Like, what do you...
The story and then the production and then who you needed to kind of pull together in order to make it.
Where did you have help, Stevie?
Yeah. No, I definitely had plenty of help. I had an amazing co-director, Ari Jackson, who made the pilot with me. I think when I was 25 years old, my ex-boyfriend helped me come out as a lesbian. Yeah, and it was really supportive and loving, and there was a part of that period where this is like TMI, but it honestly inspired the pilot, where we had an open relationship so I could like figure out my sexuality. And I ended up falling in love with like married women who were trying to get pregnant by their husbands.
Right.
It was, again, a very hot nightmare.
That's a great,
but
it's a cool story to tell.
Yeah. So I basically, I wrote the pilot because I'm also a stand-up comedian, and I met an agent at a party, and they asked me if I had any TV samples, and I said, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, great, I'm gonna fly on the weekend, I'd love to read it, on the plane. And I was like, okay, amazing. I did not have a sample. I fully lied.
Of course.
You
we
always
all know how.
say yes and
play that
just
game.
make it
like,
happen.
absolutely. I have a great comedy sample for you to read.
Yeah.
And so I spent the next 4 weeks just trying really hard to finish a pilot that I had, but that wasn't great. And I sent it to my smart TV writing friend, and she was like, you cannot send this in, this is terrible. And I was like, okay, amazing. And she's like, it's clever, but like I don't know how any of the characters feel. So then I was really pissed, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna write something just like in spite of you. And so I put all of my feelings into this other pilot, which became Day Jobs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool, because you never really hear about that happening, of like one thing so drastically being like, scratching that out right now.
You
just
absolutely
so we can kind of take that.
cannot send this. Yeah.
So who did you pull in for your heads of department? How did you find them?
Yeah, so I worked at BuzzFeed when I first moved out to LA, I would say like 6 years ago. And in my internship group, I had a good friendship with Ari Jackson and River Branson and Kevin Stiller, who is the incredible DP on the project. And we kind of like all like came up together. So when I wanted to make this, I knew immediately that I like wanted to work with them, because they're just such safe, amazing, such talented people. And I already had like a repertoire. So I was so excited. They just said yes. And we had planned on filming it right before the pandemic. And of course things shut down. So we were kind of like in pre-production for like a year.
Which kind of makes it's annoying, but it makes it all the better, because then by the time you get onto production, I'm a cinematographer, so by the time you get onto production, you're like, oh, I know your language. Like, I know exactly what you want. We've talked about this over and over again. Like, you know, and so I bet it was like a much cleaner and more efficient process because you had the time to prep.
Yeah, and it was like, I mean, it was honestly like the best experience of my whole life. Like, I just felt so happy. Like, I just didn't know I could be that joyful, like, just in the middle of it. And just, like, I feel like we tried really hard to have a really safe set. We did, like, emotional check-ins. I'm really, like, inspired by, like, Joey Soloway and the work that they do. And I've listened to a lot of, just, like, directing TED Talks about how to create, like, a safe set.
Wow. And that was, like, a really important part of the process
from
the beginning.
So important because it's such a vulnerable project, and I think for me to be that present on camera, I just needed to not feel judged. Because I'm a sensitive I'm like a highly sensitive person, like one of those like HSP people.
Okay.
So I was just like, for me to be this present in my character and my body,
fantastic.
I just need to feel like the people around me like are good, are safe, aren't gonna like make fun of me in between takes, you know?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
really ideal, isn't it? If you can just always be working with people who, you know, have your back and think good things about you and want you to do and want to tell the same story as you too, to be able to have those check-ins and be like, is the vibe what we're going for?
Yeah.
Totally.
Are we good to move on?
Yeah.
Do we need to do this again? And if so, how do we want to do it differently? Things like that.
Yeah.
For the casting part, because you were the star of this.
Yeah.
For the others that you brought in, what was the most important thing about casting? Was it getting it completely correct to how you pictured people, or was it going a little out of bounds and improving and then kind of getting them into the script? How did you deal with casting?
Well, I always knew that the person that I wanted to play my on-screen ex-boyfriend was this comedian that I worked with, Jared Cassibaum. We were in the stand-up scene together. He's just the biggest sweetheart, and you know, the character in the show is also the biggest sweetheart. So he was like the first person that I think brought the project to, and I was like, do you want to do this thing with me? It would be so great if you could. And he like was like so elated. And then for the mom, with the baby, we honestly didn't know any, like we were looking for someone who had a baby, because of course, like, very limited budget.
Right.
So I think we put a casting call on like Actors Access, and auditioned a few people.
Wow.
And then we found Becca Buckaloo, who is just stunning on screen. She's so captivating. She really embodies the character of like a repressed housewife who's like struggling with her sexuality, but is also like very taken care of by her husband. So she crushed it. And it was, again, just like working with people that you really felt safe around.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What do you feel like you learned from this process? And would you do a project again where you have so many hats to wear?
I would love to.
Including the lead.
I would love to. I love to create things. I ended up also editing the project out of desperation, but I had to do it. We were trying to like make deadlines.
Yeah.
But it's the final rewrite process. I'm like a writer always first. So, it was such a labor of love, but also just like a massive passion to make this, because it just like, I feel like it's so hard to break into the TV industry, and it was kind of my way of being like, well, if I don't get the big green lights, like this is my way of showing myself that I belong. You know?
Create the content that you feel closest to, and do it in the style that you really want.
That I really want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What did your ex-boyfriend think when you showed it to him?
You know what? He hasn't seen it. I couldn't show him. My heart. Oh no.
When are you screening? Is he going to come to the screening?
He should. No, he actually
should.
He doesn't live on the West Coast anymore.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, well, he has no excuse because it's going to be on the virtual fest on BitPix.
Yeah, ex-boyfriend.
You tell this ex-boyfriend he has to watch it.
I love that he's like in it, right?
Yeah,
so but I love that it's also inspired with him, and this whole journey was your relationship together, breaking out into the like this multifaceted, relationship, and so that's so wonderful and incredible. What are your biggest takeaways that what do you think the audience should have as their biggest takeaways from this pilot?
From the project? I mean, it's just about a person trying. I mean, we love to root for an underdog. She's like, in her late 20s, trying to start over. She's like super financially dependent on her ex-boyfriend, so she desperately, gets a nannying gig. And it's just like, she wants to be a stand-up, but the world of stand-up comedy is very male-dominated, and I feel like you just root for her because you see her trying so hard and just being like hit back to back to back to back of like, not belonging and not getting what she wants. So it's like, I don't know if this is narcissistic, but when I wrote the pilot, in my lowest moments of doing stand-up, sometimes I would just like read the script to myself like before we made it, just to like feel hope, because there's like a moment in the story where she just feels like there's room for me. Like if I just try, there's room for me. So I feel like that was like a thing I had to tell myself.
I don't think that that's narcissistic. I think it's beautiful that you were able to create something for yourself to help you feel hope. That's gorgeous. We should all be trying to do that.
Yeah, I think the one thing everyone always says is like when you're starting out making your own content, it's like write what you know, because that's the thing that you can most identify with. And so I think what you've done here is so incredible, because not only have you written what you know, but you're also identifying with a ton of people that might not even know that they identify with this pilot until they watch it and then start to ask themselves those questions. So thank you so much for bringing this to audiences, Stevie. And
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Of course. So when are we screening all of that? Did we already screen?
No, we're screening on Tuesday
okay.
at 2:30 in the TV block.
Awesome.
Try to be there.
Oh my God,
this sounds fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stevie, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you both.
And we will post everything about Day Job, and we can't wait to see it.
Yay.
Thank you so
much.
We'll see you all soon.
Yep. Bye. Bye. This has been another episode of the Cinematography for Actors podcast. Follow us on wherever you listen to your podcast to keep up to date on new episode releases. We will be live through August 20th here at HollyShorts Film Fest. If you're here, drop in and say a little hello at the VIP lounge. We also want to thank our sponsors, Apogee, Film Tools, Roscoe, Lightstone Rentals, Canon, and First Mile Tech. As a special gift to you listeners, we've partnered with We Make Movies to get you a discount on comprehensive production insurance packages. Use code CFA23 on your intake form for 10% off your quote by visiting wemakemovies.org/insurance.
If you missed any of our live streams, you can watch all of our interviews on our YouTube channel, Cinematography for Actors. And make sure you follow us on Instagram at Cinematography for Actors. You can also catch us in a more formal setting on Monday, August 14th at Japan House for a panel discussion on the importance of bridging the gap between talent and crew. You can get 20% off of your ticket purchase by using the code HSFF2023CFA at checkout.
Thanks.